All right, so for this deep dive, you, the listener, have given us Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the final book in this series. Seems like you're trying to decide if the grand finale is really worth all the hype. And, well, more importantly, your time.
Yeah, I can definitely see why you'd be asking that.
And to help us figure all that out, we have, well, an expert.
That's me.
And you say this one is, well, pretty special.
It really is. In fact, it's my favorite in the whole series.
Wow, okay. Your favorite. That's a pretty bold statement. I mean, by book 7, wouldn't you think the magic would have faded a bit? I mean, hasn't the ending already been, like, spoiled for everyone?
Well, sure, it's understandable to feel that way, but trust me, this book is far from predictable. I mean, yeah, the broad strokes of the plot might be familiar: Harry's quest to defeat Voldemort, but the journey is full of unexpected twists and turns.
Okay, so what kind of twists are we talking? Give us a little taste.
Oh, think like Snape's true allegiance,
What?
the whole backstory of the Deathly Hallows, and even some shocking revelations about Dumbledore's past.
Really? See, now you've got me intrigued. But just to refresh my memory, what's the central plot of this book? It's been a while since I've, well, revisited the series.
Well, Deathly Hallows centers on Harry, Ron, and Hermione's quest to hunt down and destroy Voldemort's Horcruxes.
Horcruxes, right? Those things. Just a quick reminder for our listeners.
Sure, they're objects imbued with dark magic containing fragments of Voldemort's soul, making him, well, essentially immoral. The only way to defeat him is to destroy these Horcruxes, and that's exactly what the trio sets out to do.
So no more cozy nights in the Gryffindor common room or Quidditch matches, huh? This sounds, well, kind of different from the earlier books.
Oh, it definitely is. This book takes a huge departure from that familiar Hogwarts setting. We follow Harry, Ron, and Hermione as they're on the run, constantly evading Voldemort and his Death Eaters. The stakes are higher than ever, and the atmosphere is definitely darker, more mature. It's a far cry from the lighthearted adventures of, their early school years.
That makes sense. I mean, this is the culmination of their fight against, like, ultimate evil, right?
Exactly.
So what are some of the key things that make this book, well, stand out from the rest of the series?
Well, one of the most striking things is how Rowling just masterfully weaves together elements from the previous books. It's like a testament to her, meticulous planning, that attention to detail. For example, remember in the first book when Ron casually asks Hermione, "Are you a wizard or what?"
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Well, in a crucial moment in Deathly Hallows, Hermione uses that exact phrase to break Ron free from a powerful curse.
Wow. See, I love those aha moments. When you realize how carefully she crafted this whole series, it makes you want to go back and, like, reread everything, just looking for those hidden connections.
It really does.
But let's be honest, not every book in this series can live up to the hype. Did the reviewers find any, well, flaws in this final installment?
Of course, no book is perfect, and even Deathly Hallows, despite being my favorite, has its share of imperfections.
All right, I'm all ears. Spill the tea. What are some of those weaknesses that reviewers pointed out?
Well, one common criticism is the pacing. Particularly in the first half of the book, the trio spends a lot of time on the run, camping in various locations while they're searching for Horcruxes. And this extended period of hiding and searching can feel, well, a bit slow for some readers, especially for those who, crave that constant action and excitement.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even, a devoted fan, I remember feeling a bit restless during those camping scenes. I just wanted them to find those Horcruxes already.
Exactly.
But isn't that sense of, like, slow-burning tension crucial for, building up to that epic climax?
You're right, that's the dilemma. Some readers really appreciate that deliberate pacing, while others find it frustrating. It really comes down to personal preference.
Yeah, I guess that's the challenge with writing a book of this magnitude. You can't please everyone all the time. What other criticisms did you find in the reviews?
Well, another point of contention was the way certain characters, particularly Harry, Ron, and Hermione, seem to act out of character at times. For example, Harry resorts to using unforgivable curses,
Oh, right.
which are considered the darkest, most dangerous spells in the wizarding world. And this felt jarring to some readers because, well, it kind of contradicted his usual aversion to dark magic.
I see what you mean. It does seem like a pretty big departure from his, established character. But could it be argued that the extreme pressure and constant threat of death could push someone, even Harry, to make, well, desperate choices.
That's a very valid interpretation, and it's a point that a lot of reviewers debated. Some argued that these out-of-character moments were a natural consequence of the trauma and the stress they were facing. I mean, after all, they're teenagers thrust into a life-or-death battle against a powerful dark wizard.
That's true. It's easy to forget that they're still, well, so young, carrying the weight of the entire wizarding world on their shoulders.
Yeah.
It's got to have some kind of impact on their behavior and, like, their decision-making.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of character development, what did the reviewers have to say about the portrayal of Harry and Ginny's relationship?
Well, that's actually another area where the book receives some criticism. Some readers, and even I kind of have to agree, felt that their relationship lacked depth. Harry spends a lot of time pining for Ginny, but there aren't many, meaningful interactions between them. Their romance doesn't feel as organically developed as some of the other relationships in the series.
That's surprising, especially since, well, this is the final book. You'd expect some kind of, like, resolution to all that romantic tension. I guess even your favorite book can't get everything right.
You're right, it's not perfect. But despite these shortcomings, Deathly Hallows still manages to deliver an incredibly powerful and emotionally resonant reading experience.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm starting to see why this one stands out for you. So what are some of the specific elements that make this book so compelling?
Well, one aspect that really struck me was the exploration of complex themes like love, sacrifice, and the, gray areas of morality. These themes are woven throughout the narrative in such a powerful way, really makes you think. For instance, Snape's storyline, which is finally revealed in this book, is just like a masterclass in character development and moral ambiguity. It forces us to, confront our own biases and examine how easily we judge others based on limited information.
That's a really interesting point. It makes you think about, like, how easily we just categorize characters as, good or bad without really understanding their motivations or the complexities of their past. Snape's story definitely adds, like, a whole new layer of depth to this series.
Exactly. And then there's the exploration of grief and loss, which is particularly poignant in this book. Harry's journey through grief, his confrontation with his own mortality, and the sacrifices he's forced to make they're incredibly moving and relatable, even for readers who haven't, personally experienced such profound loss.
So Deathly Hallows isn't just about, defeating Voldemort. It's about exploring these, like, deeper, more human themes that, well, resonate with everyone. It sounds like there's a lot to unpack here, even for, like, the most seasoned Harry Potter fan.
Oh, absolutely. Even though it's the seventh book in the series, it stands on its own as a powerful and thought-provoking story. It has elements that will appeal to, both casual readers and those who've been immersed in the wizarding world for years.
Now, you mentioned that Deathly Hallows is your favorite book in the series, but how does it compare to other popular young adult fantasy novels, especially those with a similar, epic scope and high stakes?
That's a great question, and it's one that, a lot of readers ponder.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. What are some of the key similarities and differences that come to mind?
Well, one obvious comparison is to the Hunger Games trilogy.
Yeah, okay.
Both series feature young protagonists who are thrust into these, extraordinary circumstances and forced to fight for their survival against, well, oppressive forces. They both explore themes of rebellion, sacrifice, and the, corrupting nature of power.
That's an interesting parallel. I can definitely see the similarities in terms of those, like, overarching themes and, well, the protagonist's journeys of self-discovery.
Yes, and both series have that undeniable page-turning quality that just keeps you hooked until the very end. But where Deathly Hallows really differs is in its exploration of magic and the, intricate world building that Rowling has created. The wizarding world is so richly imagined and detailed that it feels like a real place you could step into.
That's true. The level of detail in Deathly Hallows, especially when it comes to the magical world, it's truly unparalleled. It's one of the things that makes this series so immersive.
Exactly. And then there's that element of humor, which is kind of sprinkled throughout even the darkest moments of Deathly Hallows. This is something that sets it apart from some other young adult fantasy novels that tend to be, consistently grim and serious.
You're right. Even in the midst of all the danger and darkness, Rowling still manages to inject those moments of, like, levity and wit. It keeps the story from feeling too heavy or overwhelming.
Yes, it's a delicate balance that she strikes so well. And then there's the sheer emotional depth of the story. The characters' relationships, their struggles, and their triumphs are so richly portrayed that you can't help but feel deeply invested in their journeys.
So it sounds like Deathly Hallows, while sharing some common ground with other popular young adult fantasy novels, also has its own unique strengths and characteristics that make it, really stand out.
Absolutely. It's a book that offers something for everyone. From thrilling action and suspense to thought-provoking themes and, well, heartwarming moments of connection.
Well, you've certainly given me, and I'm sure our listener, a lot to think about. I'm eager to delve deeper into the, specifics of the book, especially those controversial character choices and those lingering questions about the pacing.
Let's do it. There's so much more to explore in this, rich and complex story. So, you mentioned earlier that some readers found certain character choices in this book, particularly those made by Harry, Ron, and Hermione, to be, well, somewhat out of character.
Yeah, I remember feeling kind of surprised, even shocked by some of their actions and reactions. Like, are these really the same characters we've been following for 6 books?
Right. Well, one instance that really stands out is Harry's use of the Cruciatus curse on Amicus Carrow, one of the unforgivable curses.
I remember that scene. Intense.
In previous books, Harry always resisted using dark magic. Even when provoked, he never went that far. But in this moment, fueled by rage and a desire for revenge, he kind of succumbs to that darkness.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Can anyone, even someone as inherently good as Harry, really remain untainted by darkness when facing those kinds of extreme circumstances?
Exactly. It's a reminder that war has a way of blurring the lines between, good and evil. Even those fighting for what's right can be tempted by the allure of power, the desire for retribution.
Makes you think. And it's not just Harry who makes these, well, questionable choices.
Right. Hermione, known for her level-headedness and, her strict adherence to rules, makes a decision in Deathly Hallows that shocked a lot of readers.
Really? What did Hermione do? I'm drawing a blank.
Well, remember Ron's insecurity and jealousy regarding Harry and Hermione's, close bond?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, it kind of reaches a boiling point in this book.
Yeah.
Leads to a heated argument and, Ron temporarily leaving the group.
Right.
While he's gone, Hermione, overwhelmed with emotion, uses a spell to permanently scar Marietta Edgecombe.
Marietta Edgecombe. The Slytherin girl who'd been, informing on Dumbledore's army.
Yeah, that's her.
Wow, that's harsh. I mean, Hermione, who always championed fairness and justice, resorting to that kind of cruel and irreversible punishment, that's definitely not the Hermione we're used to.
It definitely challenges our perception of her character. Some readers felt this action was completely out of line with, her established morality, while others argued that it was a realistic depiction of how trauma and prolonged stress can warp even the most principled person's judgment.
I see both sides. I mean, there are teenagers dealing with extraordinary pressure. It's bound to have some impact, right? Speaking of complex characters, what about Snape? You mentioned earlier that his story is one of the most compelling aspects of Deathly Hallows.
Oh, absolutely. Snape's backstory, his motivations, that hidden love for Lily Potter, it all comes to light in this book, and it's a revelation that, fundamentally changes how we see him. We learn that he's not the heartless villain we thought he was, but a deeply flawed, almost tragic figure who made immense sacrifices for the sake of love and loyalty.
His memories, viewed through the pensive, are some of the most emotionally charged scenes in the entire series. I mean, you see him as a young boy, ostracized, bullied, finding solace only in his friendship with Lily, and then witnessing the tragic events that, shaped his path, his descent into darkness, and yet that unwavering devotion to Lily's memory even after her death.
It's heartbreaking, incredibly moving. It forces us to reevaluate those judgments and acknowledge that, even those who appear villainous can have hearts capable of profound love and sacrifice. It's a masterclass in character redemption, showcasing that even the most flawed individuals can possess, hidden depths of compassion and courage.
Snape's storyline really is a perfect example of how Rowling masterfully subverts expectations. She takes a character we thought we knew, a character we'd labeled as, the enemy, and reveals his humanity, his pain, his undying love.
Exactly. It's a testament to her skill as a writer that she can create characters who are both deeply flawed and deeply sympathetic.
It's not just a simple battle between good and evil. It's a battle within each character as they grapple with their own darkness and strive to make those right choices, even when those choices are incredibly difficult.
That's it, exactly.
You've really painted this vivid picture of these characters' internal struggles. Makes me want to, revisit Deathly Hallows with a fresh perspective. But what about the pacing? You mentioned that some readers found the first half of the book to be a bit slow. Does that impact the overall reading experience?
It's a valid concern. The first half of the book, with those long camping sequences and, seemingly endless searching for Horcruxes, feel like a bit of a lull after the fast-paced action of the previous books.
I totally get that feeling of impatience. Like, just find the Horcruxes already. Is there a reason for that slower pace? Does it, serve some purpose in the story?
Yeah, I think it does. That extended period of searching and hiding, while challenging for some readers, actually serves a crucial purpose. It forces the trio to confront their own vulnerabilities, their insecurities. They're isolated, stripped of their usual support systems, and constantly facing the threat of capture or death.
So all that pressure really tests their friendship,
Yeah.
pushes them to their limit.
Exactly. And ultimately forces them to grow, both individually and as a unit.
That makes sense. It's during those quiet moments, those moments of shared hardship, that they really learn to rely on each other, develop a deeper understanding of themselves.
Right. It's almost as if that period of isolation, that vulnerability, is necessary for their ultimate transformation.
So while the pacing might feel a bit uneven at times, it ultimately serves a purpose in deepening the characters and their relationships. It's a good reminder that sometimes those slower, more introspective moments can be just as important as, the big action sequences.
It's about finding that balance between action and introspection, between external conflicts and internal struggles. And I think Rowling does a masterful job of, weaving those elements together, creating a story that's both thrilling and emotionally resonant.
You've definitely highlighted the depth and complexity of Deathly Hallows in a way that I hadn't, fully appreciated before. But what about those reviewers who just loved this book? What were some of the elements that, really resonated with them?
That's a great point. Let's shift gears a bit and explore some of those aspects that got those overwhelmingly positive reviews.
I'm all ears. I'm always curious to hear what makes a book, so beloved.
One element that consistently receives praise is the book's emotional depth. Reviewers often point to, specific scenes that left a lasting impact on them, scenes that evoke this wide range of emotions, from heartbreak and despair to joy and triumph.
Can you give us some examples? Like, what are some of those scenes that really tug at the heartstrings?
One scene that a lot of people mention is Harry's visit to his parents' graves in Godric's Hollow.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a poignant and heartbreaking moment where he confronts his grief, his loss, the weight of his destiny. Rowling's writing is just so evocative in this scene, capturing Harry's vulnerability, the rawness of his emotions as he stands there before the tombstones of his parents.
It's one of those moments where you can feel the character's pain so strongly that it almost becomes your own.
Exactly. It's that ability to evoke those strong emotional responses that makes Deathly Hallows and really the whole Harry Potter series so captivating. And then there's the scene where Harry finally faces Voldemort in the Forbidden Forest, willingly sacrificing himself to protect his friends in the wizarding world. It's a moment of profound courage,
Yeah.
selflessness, and it's one of the most powerful scenes I think in the whole book.
I remember that scene.
Yeah.
So much tension. You know that Harry is walking towards his death. It's so moving, so suspenseful.
Right. And the way Rowling describes the aftermath, the silence, the disbelief, chilling, unforgettable.
It really is.
It's this masterful blend of action, emotion, and suspense, a scene that stays with you long after you've finished reading the book. And then, of course, there's the epic battle at Hogwarts, which is, the culmination of all the conflicts and tensions that have been building throughout the series.
It's a whirlwind of magic, chaos, and sacrifice.
It is a fitting climax to this epic saga, bringing together all the beloved characters in a final stand against the darkness.
So it's a battle that showcases their bravery.
Exactly. It's a battle that tests their limits and, ultimately reveals their true strength, their determination.
You've painted this really vivid picture of these emotionally charged scenes, and I can definitely see why they resonate with so many readers. They really capture what makes Deathly Hallows such a powerful, enduring story. But what about those elements of humor and lightheartedness that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
How do those play into the overall tone of the book, especially considering, its darker themes?
That's a great question, and it's something that I think Rowling balances really well. Despite the book's, darker themes and those high stakes, she still finds moments to inject some humor, some warmth. It keeps the story from becoming too heavy, overwhelming.
Those moments of levity are so important,
Yeah.
especially in a story that deals with, such serious subject matter. It reminds us that even in those darkest of times, there's still room for hope,
Mm-hmm.
laughter, connection.
Mhm.
So can you give us some specific examples of those, like humorous or lighthearted moments that stand out in Deathly Hallows?
One example that always brings a smile to my face is, well, the character of Neville Longbottom.
Oh, Neville, of course.
Throughout the series, he's kind of portrayed as this, like, bumbling, forgetful character.
Right.
But in Deathly Hallows, he really, truly comes into his own, displays remarkable courage and, even leadership. His transformation is it's both inspiring and amusing as he, sheds that awkwardness and embraces his role in the fight against Voldemort.
His transformation is one of the most, well, the most satisfying character arcs in the entire series. I mean, he
Yeah.
goes from being that, shy, clumsy kid to this, like, brave, capable wizard who stands up to Voldemort himself.
It really is. And then there are those moments of like camaraderie and banter between the trio, Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Even in the midst of all that danger and uncertainty, they still manage to find humor in their shared experiences. They crack jokes, they tease each other, they provide those, much needed moments of levity.
Their friendship really is one of the, well, the most endearing aspects of the series. They're constantly bickering and teasing each other, but you just know that that bond is unbreakable.
Exactly. It speaks to the power of friendship and the importance of, finding that humor, that lightness, even in the darkest of times.
You've really captured what makes Deathly Hallows so compelling. But I have to ask, knowing this is the final book, does it provide, a satisfying conclusion to this epic saga?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? And I can confidently say that Deathly Hallows delivers a conclusion that is, well, it's both emotionally satisfying and thematically resonant. It ties together all those loose ends, resolves the major conflicts, and provides a sense of, closure for both the characters and the reader.
That's reassuring to hear, especially
Yeah.
for those who have, invested so much time and emotion in this series. So what are some of the specific elements of the ending that you find particularly satisfying?
Well, one aspect that stands out is, the resolution of Harry's journey. Throughout the series, he's been on this quest to defeat Voldemort, to avenge his parents' deaths, and to fulfill his destiny as the boy who lived. And in Deathly Hallows, he finally confronts his ultimate enemy and makes the ultimate sacrifice, willingly facing death to protect those he loves and to ensure the safety of the wizarding world. It's a moment of, well, profound courage and selflessness. And it brings his arc to a, like, truly heroic and satisfying conclusion.
That's such a powerful moment. It
Yeah.
really speaks to those themes of love, sacrifice, the triumph of good over evil that have been woven throughout the entire series.
And then there's the resolution of Snape's storyline, which is both, heartbreaking and deeply moving. We learn the extent of his sacrifices, his unwavering love for Lily Potter, and that, complex web of motivations that drove his actions. His redemption, though ultimately tragic, is a testament to the power of love and forgiveness, even in the face of betrayal and loss.
Snape's story is really a masterpiece of character development. It challenges us to look beyond those surface appearances and to acknowledge the, well, the complexity of human motivations.
And then there's the epilogue, which provides a glimpse into the future of the wizarding world, showing us how the characters have healed, moved on, and rebuilt their lives after the war. It's a heartwarming and hopeful ending that leaves the reader with a sense of peace and closure.
It's a perfect note to end on. A sense of hope and renewal. Life goes on, wounds heal, and love continues to bloom. Even though the story has ended, the magic, well, it lives on.
It's a fitting tribute to the power of storytelling, the enduring legacy of Harry Potter.
Well, you've given me, and I'm sure our listener, a lot to consider. Your insights have been incredibly valuable. But before we wrap up our deep dive into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, I have one final question. Would this book have been, better as a two-part book, allowing for more, well, more exploration of these complex themes and characters?
That's a fascinating question, and it's one that has sparked a lot of debate among fans.
I'd love to hear your perspective, knowing, how much you love this book. What are your thoughts on splitting Deathly Hallows into two separate volumes?
It's a tempting thought, especially considering the book's, sheer size and the amount of material it covers. Splitting it into two parts could have given Rowling more space to, delve deeper into the characters, to explore the wizarding world, in greater detail, and to really flesh out certain plot points that some readers found a bit rushed or underdeveloped. Imagine an entire book dedicated to the trio's Horcrux hunt. We could have witnessed their growing desperation, their evolving relationships, and their encounters with, various magical creatures and hidden corners of the wizarding world.
It's easy to imagine how, well, how expanding those sections could have enriched the story. provided even more opportunities for character development, world building. But wouldn't that risk, disrupting the book's pacing?
That's the big question, isn't it? While a two-part structure could have provided more breathing room, it also could have sacrificed some of that, gripping intensity that keeps readers on the edge of their seats. That relentless momentum, that sense that time is running out, is a key element of its appeal. And stretching that tension over two books, well, it could have lessened the impact.
It's about finding that balance, space for exploration while maintaining that sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think it's a matter of personal preference and what each reader values most in a story.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong answer. And it's a testament to the book's richness, its complexity, that it can spark such, thoughtful discussions.
Well, you've definitely give our listeners plenty to ponder. You've provided insightful analysis, highlighted the book's strengths and weaknesses, and really offered this balanced perspective on the whole two-part book debate.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, we want to hear from you. Did you love Deathly Hallows? Did it leave you feeling conflicted? What's your take on the two-part book debate? Head over to our website or social media pages and let us know your thoughts. We'll be back next week with another deep dive, exploring a new topic. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those pages turned.